Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. As you're probably aware, we lost a Tenafly treasure this past week when Robert Fuller passed away. Robert was a volunteer fireman for over 60 years, and his funeral, I know Mark and Lauren were there with me as well. So Lauren had no, I think it was Dan had a great idea to invite a fireman to lead us in our pledge tonight. And Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's so nice.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Get a drill tonight?
Get a drill.
There you go. Yes, but well, that was, you know.
He's got a few words to say.
Excuse me? If you would like me to say a few words about Bobby, if you didn't
Yes.
know Bob. Bob was a Tenafly boy, born in 1925, graduated in 1943. And just before, I guess he graduated, they had, like we have the junior cadet program here, the junior program. He became interested in the fire service then, but then the war broke out. And he enlisted, went in, served, was at the Battle of the Bulge, received the Bronze Star. When he came back, he joined the service full-time here, fire service, 1947.
Wow.
And he was one of the founding members of the Fire Prevention Bureau when it opened up. And I was a rookie, or a probie as they call him, in '83. And Bobby was still a line officer, like I forget, it was a captain or lieutenant. But he would take the young guys under the wings and always say, you know, next time you go in, make sure to check the door. And he was great for that. He always emphasized your safety. And he looked out for the young guys and showed them the ranks. And then when he went to fire prevention, that's when we started doing schools. He was big with the kids for safety. That was one big priority. Teach these kids, you know. So that's what I remember Bob from. And we made him honorary chief. And he was a big historian. And as we were talking, he did have the Englewood's 1913 first motorized pumper in his garage. I mean, he had it up there for years. And just before he passed, up went the door and went back to Englewood towards home. So Bob was quite a guy. But may he rest in peace. And he spent probably 90%, 99% of his life in Tenafly.
You talk about the fabric of Tenafly.
Yeah, he's a Tenafly boy. Thank you, by the way, for having me, and thank you for coming to the service Saturday. I really appreciate that. So, I thank you.
You're very welcome. And while we're talking about first responders, I know this isn't really a local issue, but for those of you that had the opportunity to listen to or watch the news tonight, a horrific event took place in Jersey City, and I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the police officer who was gunned down, leaves 5 children and a wife. And you know, we always have to keep in mind that what we put our first responders through, and I think it's appropriate if we just give them a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you once
Thank
again.
you.
I got training.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care.
No roll call before it's time.
Roll call, Councilmember Bash,
Here.
Councilmember Dayton,
Here.
Councilmember Grossman,
Here.
Councilmember Menon,
Here.
Councilmember Park, Councilmember Zena,
Here.
Mayor Rustin.
Here. Perfect attendance again, guys. And ladies, thank you. Revisions to the agenda?
None?
Good. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August the 19th, the work session.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dayton, we have another, the second of 2 winners for our 125th scavenger hunt contest. Would you like to make the presentation, please?
So I want to thank you both for doing the scavenger hunt, and I have to say, I received the answers here, and this couple actually went around town and took all the selfies of our historical areas and our landmarks and our statues. They're here tonight, and I can't say thank you enough for participating. We appreciate it. We hope you had fun.
We did.
And as a grand prize winner of our 125th, you have a gift certificate to the Tenafly Diner.
Wow.
And Mayor Rustin actually, for the 125th, made
Oh,
a shirt.
awesome.
And it says, I love Tenafly.
Thank
So we have
you.
one for each of you. And if you need a different size, just let us know. But thank
Children
you
or
so
something,
much.
we can give you.
And so these are
One
for
for
you.
everybody. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for participating.
Thank you so much.
We really did have a lot of fun doing it. Thank you guys.
I know, it's,
What, am
I
gonna
dare
hold up
say
the
that
shirt?
probably
Why
there'd be
not?
very few people, if any, that could answer all those questions without doing a little research.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to ask, so you said you went to the library. Where else did you go to do the scavenger hunt?
Everywhere that it required. We
Okay.
drove around. It started to rain that day, so we ended with soggy boots, but it was worth it. Even running to get that glacier rock.
I saw
That was the
picture.
one. that was the grand finale. So thank you for doing it. We really did enjoy it.
All right, we'll look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you.
We're working on more challenging questions for the future.
Okay, we're up for
We'll
it.
see you at the 150th.
Yes, well, hopefully.
Thank you
you
both for
guys.
coming.
Thank you so much.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Thank you too.
And
Our pleasure, our pleasure.
On the resolution, the auction was.
I know.
Would anybody, any public comment here? We're rather limited to the public tonight, no offense, of course. Okay, I was gonna close the public comment. You want to make one?
A minor thing, yes.
It's here.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy Street.
1939.
It's, what time is it? December 10th. You might want to just take a look at the trees that still have leaves on and consider moving leaf collection back 2 weeks. This is the third year that there have been leaves on the trees still after the closing of the leaf collection period. And the first 2 weeks, we don't generally have very big leaf piles at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna close the public comment section and ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I think that we should discuss the consent agenda.
Well, first, let's have a motion, and then we'll talk about it.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion, please?
Yeah,
Two of them.
the issue that
Just have
I
it.
have to raise over here is the,
Hold on, wait a second.
I have it.
the issue I'm raising over here is the purchasing of gas through the auction. Really, what we have over here, and let me understand if I'm right or wrong, is we have two options. One is to lock ourselves to a 24-month contract, or to lock ourselves to a 36-month contract.
Not 12 or 24. Are you okay?
It's an
I'm
updated,
reading over here.
Max is an updated one, she
Yeah,
just handed
that
out.
Oh,
was
so-
from-
It's changed.
Yeah, it changed.
You know,
Okay, then
okay.
I want to go through.
It was, the auction was today.
All right. Oh, well, that's so different than what it was
Yeah,
here.
yeah, they.
Well, hold on, before-
We discussed that before.
Before we go any further, Susan, bring us up to date with what happened at the auction, please.
Okay, if you turn to the
Yeah.
second page, you'll see that the top auction was East Coast P&G, and the person that ran the auction was Mike Stoller, and he recommended that we either go with the 12-month or the 24-month at .4922 dollars per, I don't know, therm, I don't know what it,
Yeah.
and or 24 months at .5209. That is compared to a weighted average for the past year of PSE&G for the past 12 months of 50.59507, and the annual savings for the 12-month is estimated at $5,472.17, or a reduction of 17.29% from as compared to public service 12-month period. Or you would do the 24-month one. I think I would recommend the 12-month.
Well, so the question becomes, if we had a crystal ball, what's gonna happen to the prices between, over the next 12 months? Because obviously, if we take the 12-month contract, at the end of 12 months, we have to make another decision. It's, I'm sure everybody here understands the mathematics of it. Your recommendation is 12 months, Susan?
I think 12 months is better, because we
Yeah.
don't know where it's gonna go, and the savings isn't as significant in the next 24 months. And they don't know either, I asked that question.
Linda, do you want to add something?
And if somebody has something else that they think you should lock in for 24 months, that'll be up to the governing body.
So we have to do 12 months, I mean, do we have an overall 36-month contract or something? Or is it a 12-month contract, and if we don't like it, we can go back to?
No, at the end of 12 months, there'd be
We-
another auction.
Yeah,
But do we decide, are we forced into another auction, or can we go back?
You can go back to
PSC&G?
PSC&G.
yeah, we could go back to PSCJ. So we did have probably about, they only listed 3 here, but we had probably about six that bid on the
These are the
auction. These are the
cheapest of
3 best.
Okay, and then the other question is, PSC&G, obviously, they will continue keeping it at similar rates for
No.
the 12 months?
No.
or-
Well,
No, you
see,
don't
what
have
I had done while he was on the phone, I was trying to figure out what our bills were, but the bills are higher in the winter, obviously, and lower in the summer, so that's why they weight it over the 12 months and get an average.
Mhm.
So that was the 12-month average.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since this is something that I brought up at the previous meeting, and at the previous meeting I was very critical about that, considering there were only 2 and 3%, and the price of gas is going down, and is projected to go down continuously. I think that the 17% is significant, and it's worth going through that. The locking up of 12 for 2 years, it's probably a little bit too much. In my opinion, that 70% for 1 year would be the best options. Significantly because we're expecting the price of gas to go down.
So anybody have a problem with just doing the 12 months? Okay, you got your answer.
Okay, great.
Right, and that's much
So
better than what
tomorrow-
we have here.
Yeah,
Can we
tomorrow
have-
will- I
Can
will
we have
execute
this one
these
in a soft
contracts.
format, please?
Sure.
So I can store it with
Any
you.
question, yes?
Just
Yes.
on, there's 2 items I'm going to abstain on, R19-394 and R19-407. I don't think I have to answer that question, do
You said R19 through
Only if,
94?
only if you want to, I
I?
mean,
I would rather not.
are there personal conflicts?
There's personal conflicts,
all.
that's all.
That's all we need.
R19-394 and R19-407.
So, Omar, when it comes to the vote, when he votes yes, just, he's voting with that in
Abstention.
mind.
Yes.
All right, so please call the roll.
Okay. Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Zena?
Yes on all except for 394 and 407, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. We can go into our public hearing now on the bond ordinance.
So let them read which one.
I'm sorry?
So-
No, I was talking to Matt, sorry.
Okay.
Omar, please.
Sure. The following ordinances published herewith first read by title only on November 12th, 2019, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the Municipal Center. Ordinance number 19-20, bond ordinance providing for various road improvements by the Borough of Tenafly, appropriating $123,000, therefore included in the grant in the amount of $98,400 expected to be received from the County of Bergen, and authorizing the issuance of 117,000 bonds or notes of the borough to finance the part of the cost thereof. There public comments on that?
Any public comments?
I need, just give us a second because this is, so we are now agreeing to put $117,000
Debt, yeah.
of that from our capital budget
Yes,
and modify the capital budget, which is
Right.
gonna be basically reflected in the new business amended 2019
Is this,
capital
Exactly.
budget.
Yeah,
is this the 2 ordinances we're talking about?
right, he just wanted to
No, but
understand.
are we talking about the 2 ordinances?
Yes.
The public hearing? One
Yes.
is the bond ordinance for the CDBG project,
Right.
and the other is open space appropriation?
Right, so what Max was questioning was, how the amendment to the capital plan. So
Yes,
we're
so-
going over the ordinances, they're the second reading,
Okay.
and then the plan will be amended to reflect the ordinances being
I
read for the
wish-
second time.
I wish we would have had this ordinance clearly stating based on the ordinance 1920 and 1921. We amend the capital budget because this is, so we amend the capital budget, period, and nobody knows why.
Oh, okay, so, well, this is how I've written them all year, and this is
Yeah.
standard language,
Okay.
but we could say to amend for
But
these
we also
ordinances.
discussed this in,
Right, so
we discussed this
really,
previously at the
it's part
first
of the
meeting.
whole meeting, actually, but I could add the ordinance numbers
Okay.
in if we wanted to.
All right, Lauren, you wanna make the motion, please?
I move to pass and adopt on second and final reading ordinances 19-20 and 19-21, and that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Second, please?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bash,
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Bennett, Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Zenna.
Yes.
Thank you.
I haven't read the ordinance 19-21 to the record.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
did
Yeah.
both.
I'm sorry, because I
Okay.
heard you mention
I
it.
thought you were done.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
Sorry, you put it together in that.
this is the open space one.
Yes. Okay, ordinance number 19-21, an ordinance of the Borough of Tenafly in the County of Bergen County, New Jersey, appropriating $75,000 for an ADA walkway at Roosevelt Common.
Thank you. We look forward to those improvements being made over at Roosevelt Common. Committee reports. We're moving right along tonight. It's scary. Dan, you have anything?
The Municipal Alliance met last night. You guys just voted on to pass R 19391, which now officially makes our municipal alliances for Tenafly, Angler Cliffs, and Alpine a consortium. On paper now, we've always met together, which means next year, not next year, 2 years from now, after the first year of the grant, we can apply for more money
Good.
as a consortium. Environmental Commission met as well. They have a draft of a plastic ban, styrofoam ban ordinance coming down the pipe. So we'll be seeing that next year.
You, for those of you who also that read the newspapers, you see this is getting a lot of attention down in Trenton. And I don't think anybody can predict where it's going to go, but it's possible that not only will these plastic bags for the most part be banned, but with certain exceptions, but single-use paper bags as well. So, and if these statewide ordinances come into play, they will supersede the local ordinances. But in the meantime, I certainly think it would be appropriate for us to consider what the Environmental Commission is asking for.
And the TNC has a new executive director, Deborah Davidson. She used to be the director of the classes, and so he's working with her next year.
Thank you. Lauren, you have anything?
Mayor, before,
Yes.
on the plastic bags, which I'm fully supportive of. My only question, I did ask John as liaison, or not as liaison, but John
Chair.
Burns as chair of the committee. I would have liked some of the local businesses to at least be involved in the discussion so that they have some buy-in. And I asked him if they were, and he said no. So I do know that there may have been some informal.
So
But-
there has been informal, where 2 of the committee members have gone door to door to all the shops. It's not well received.
Well, I think just, I
very
think
badly
a discussion
1 second.
as to timing and implementation.
Well, you-
Oh yeah,
It-
there's a
I think-
the ordinance has a long time.
I know the ordinance does, but I know that other towns have gone out of their way to not just throw it at the businesses, but to have some input in a more formal rather than
Well, Jeff, you know what, it's up to you guys, but maybe next year, prior to the introduction of any potential ordinance, mayor and council through the chamber could invite businesses to come down and get their input. That's something you could do. Vinu had his hand, then Laura.
I know at a previous meeting, I brought up in, for the good of the order, a discussion about the plastic bags and how Paramus had basically done it without any issues, and they're going to implement it at the beginning of January 2020. So, I mean, I don't know how much, of course, there's going to be some pushback from the businesses, you know, but the question is, do we do it for the good of society, or do we do it for the good of, you know, a few businesses?
Lauren?
A few of the other towns actually are doing the initiative that, since we have the plastic bags in existence, they're moving it to the Trex benches, and I know
To the what?
it's Trex, it's like a
company that takes all the bags.
Composite.
it takes the
Makes them
bags and it
benches.
creates other things from them, so they actually create benches, park benches, decks, rail, walkways, and so maybe we should look into the combination of that. I believe it's maybe Montclair, I'm sorry, I forgot which one, someone just, Montclair just won something with Trex, and they won a few, but they actually were awarded a green initiative for it.
Well, who's, I'm sorry, the liaison with environmental should,
Yeah.
you know, bring that to their attention. I think that's something they could do. Mark, please?
So, just a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
Are they involved with the program for collecting the plastic bags and delivering it to the Trex company, or how is that actually working?
I'm not sure, but there is a program
It's a
through the
program,
company,
right, okay.
Trex, Trex, and I'm not sure how they do the collection, whether the town collects it and gives it over, or vice versa.
Okay.
So we should look into that, because we could use a few more nice benches.
Yep, let's start with the environmental commission.
And,
Lauren, do you have anything else?
The Chamber of Commerce had their holiday parade, and unfortunately it was on the same night as back to school night for many of the younger kids, so I couldn't go, but I heard it was very lovely, and thank you for everyone who participated.
It's warm,
Yes?
really warm.
Well, maybe somebody who was there can fill us in.
Absolutely, I think Jeff was there.
No,
Or-
we have three of us were there.
Okay.
All three of us were there.
Nice.
The parade was lovely.
A good turnout,
It
actually.
was a very nice turnout. The
The
madrigals
madrigals
say
were phenomenal.
there was an issue with the cookies versus brownies or something, but it all went well.
Right, calmer heads prevail.
Yes, calmer heads
All
prevailed.
right, well, thank you to the
But
chamber.
they were
delicious.
Anything else?
Competition
Thank you for
between
the
the
chamber,
foundation and Santa. That was tough.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the Northern Valley Greenway, actually, we have very good news in that the Bergen County freeholders actually adopted their master parks plan, and they did actually amend it to include the Northern Valley Greenway, which is huge. They're recognizing us as a legitimate and viable project. I actually spoke with a freeholder last night about it. She said normally they try to do, a 10,000-foot view, and they don't have any small specific projects, but that the county is actually very much behind and supporting the project from what I understand, so they put it in their master plan report, which
Good.
they amended to do.
No, I know Christine did a lot of work on that, and we
Yes.
appreciate that.
10,000 foot, that's her line.
Too bad.
Anything else, Lauren?
Nope, that's.
Mark, you have anything?
Nothing for me tonight, no.
Max, you have anything?
No.
Max, you're aware that the senior meeting for tomorrow is moved?
It has moved to a week from now, yes.
Do you have anything?
There was a meeting of the senior center back 3 weeks ago in November 18th. And we discussed a lot of the issues actually at the last working session. But just to recap the meeting, they had a number of events that went off successfully.
Yeah.
Bless you. They have an upcoming trip to the Buddy Holly Holiday Show, and it's full. The pancake breakfast went off successfully. They made $500. The Halloween party was also a successful event. So they've had all these events, and they've been doing quite well with them. They have a few planned events for 2020. And most of them are already 90% filled, such as the Philadelphia Flower Show, Tina Turner, Evan Hansen, Kinky Boots, Broadway shows, and so that's they have that kind of down pat. The information campaign on the new center, the center membership for next year has generally been positive. There have been a couple of grumbles, but most people have been very, open to it. And the center director suggested that there be a sign-up party with one incentive being the first 100 to sign up will get free gifts. I don't know, you said 100 have already signed up. I don't know if they've given out the free gifts already, but.
Plastic bags.
A couple of interesting things. One of the discussions last week was about the HVAC grant, and so I won't go into that again. But there was a local Eagle Scout candidate approached the senior center about making his project about improving technology in the senior center. So he wanted to raise voluntary funds to buy tablets for the center, and he wants to train seniors in the use of the tablets. This is very positive.
Maybe
and
we get him to come here.
yeah, maybe train us. As part of this, he was conducting a spaghetti dinner event, which unfortunately is over, but it was on November 24th, and it was very successful. So that's the senior center.
I would like to add on the senior center, they had their craft show yesterday,
Right.
and it was extremely successful. I mean, you couldn't have fit another vendor in the place. It was packed. And that was before the crowd arrived. I understand they did very well.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I
And they had really neat stuff, really nice stuff.
There was also a meeting of the Youth Services Committee on November 13th, now a month ago. Because there was nobody at the prior bi-monthly meeting, 3 months ago, he rehashed everything that happened at that meeting. And in terms of newer business, he just mentioned a temporary part-time staffer that was added, and that they placed an ad for a second temporary part-timer. I'm not sure where things stand at this point for that.
We're still looking.
Well, now he should be hiring a permanent part-time because one person left.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Jeff, you have anything?
Oh, yeah. HPC met last Thursday, which also was a follow-up of a meeting held Wednesday at the railroad station. And you were there for the first half, I was there for the second half, but Susan was absolutely an essential component to the entire discussion, for which the commission thanks you. So, with respect to the railroad station, a lot of the discussion had to do with electric for the facility and lighting. So we had someone there last Wednesday, Brett Anderson, who's from Focus Lighting. Focus Lighting did the monument in the Englewood Circle. And they brought him in. They're looking to have him come up with a design which then could be installed. Essentially, they want to get rid of the string lights, that half of which are inoperable at the top of the structure, and that they're not in keeping with historic significance or in keeping with the way the train station should or would have looked.
And apparently, they're very difficult to maintain as well.
They're difficult, they're dangerous, frayed wires, that's why some of them are out. So they're looking at the possibility, and the meeting was also with the owner of Cafe Angelique, so he's having input. And the discussion was downlighting on the outside from the eaves, so that it would highlight and accentuate the stones, and that the color of the lighting would actually be to match the stones in a sense, to make them come out even more. The other part of it was to have 4 spotlights on the roof aimed at the cupola, so that the cupola would stand out as well. What they really want to do is make it a showpiece, so that when you come into town, and we talk about lights and inviting things, that this is one of the first things that you should and would see as you come into Tenafly.
Well, it'd be wonderful.
It would be, so.
And Bob Colbert was there also.
Yep.
I thought it was very important to try and get all of the partners there at the same time to move this along, because apparently we do have some funding available. So hopefully we get a meeting of the minds. You'll stay on top of it, right, Jeff?
More a meeting of the budgets, but
Right.
that's really the thing, is just how to make it work. Then there was also a discussion of the garbage enclosure around there, so
Are they still keeping it in the center of?
that triangle thing. No, I don't think
I
so.
feel
Well,
like
right now, the
it makes
garbage
me
cans are
upset.
against the wall.
Yeah, they're against.
And one of the goals is to get them away from the wall, because that's not where they belong. Bob, where are we on this? Because you and I had a brief discussion, and I thought you said was somebody coming up with a plan?
Richard.
Yeah, well, Richard Bennett had a plan. And I showed the drawings actually to Lindsay and had it looked at there to see if there was any issue. I talked to the chief about it on sight lines, and then the commission said, nah, this is not the direction we really want to go. So I think it's very much up in the air which direction they do want to go with it. Those plans are,
Or did you
Pretty
tell
much
them
what-
until they come up with the direction they want to go, they can't complain about anything?
they can complain about the garbage. They
Right.
can complain about a lot else.
All right.
As far as the rest of the meeting goes, they are working on historic signs for 8993 Highwood, Magnolia Avenue, and 91 West Clinton. They also talked under new business about having something for the 19th Amendment Centennial, and also bringing in Tim Adrians, who's the guy who worked on the Roosevelt Monument before, and who they would like to have work on it for the next phase, and have him do lectures and really educate people in town, either at schools, the library, do something to try and get people educated as to the significance of the monument.
You said 8993 Highwood, is that the Elizabeth Cady Stanton house?
No.
Which,
Those
those are
are-
the two houses we
Yes.
declared historic?
Yes.
Okay.
Those two.
Just
houses.
before the church?
Right.
Oh, good.
The ones I think with an interesting backstory in their history.
Okay.
So that was HPC. Let me just go to Stigma Free, met last night, which we had a really good turnout, and that included Lynn Weber, and among others, also Simone Zinna joined us, which was a new member. We had Hercules was there because we're talking about some sort of way to revitalize.
A merger, to a certain
Yeah.
degree.
A merger to some degree. A lot of the discussion, Amy Morick was talking about, first of all, she wants her signs, the stigma-free signs on the edge of town.
They were just delivered today.
So I told her I would follow up, excellent. They did have tables at parent-teacher conferences with material. They also had, as a guest last night, Jennifer, I'm not positive of her last name, I think it's Hanowitz, she's from Inglewood Hospital. She does some of their stigma-free outreach at the hospital, and what they'd like is for her to be involved. She's a resident in town, so that's awesome. They're talking about possibly showing a movie, either Angst or Like, which are films about anxiety and teenage social media issues, and then they would have a screening with discussion. They are working with the school to bring a stigma-free basketball game. They're talking about January 21st as a possible game, where it will be sponsored, in a sense, stigma-free, where cheerleaders would wear lime green, they'd have lime green shirts. That's one of the reasons why they want Inglewood Hospital's input, is to try and bring in some money to make the shirts. And lime green is to raise awareness. We were also talking about April being Autism Awareness Month, and maybe colors for that. So,
Amy's got a lot of energy.
She has
She's gonna
a
be a
ton.
terrific committee chair. And, Mark, I don't know where you're gonna be on this, but, I'm not happy with where the ADA committee is. It has nothing to do with Hercules. He's been a phenomenal chair, but there's just not, beyond the Pecorella family, there's no support. And I have suggested both to Hercules and Amy that maybe those two committees can merge. We need to make sure that if there are any requirements for grants, ADA grants, that I believe there's some sort of a requirement that we need to have an ADA committee. Maybe it's just for eligibility purposes for grants, because I recall when I first became mayor, we had an ADA committee that had never met. And I asked why, and they said, well, we were required to have it. So fortunately, Andrew Pecorella took it and ran with it and was active for a few years. But that's like the Youth Services Committee, which is another challenge, trying to get people, the constituency to get involved and be active. Those two are probably the biggest challenges you're gonna have as far as committees are concerned. So, we'll see. I think Amy is amiable to doing that, and the mission of the ADA committee is not that different from stigma-free, mental health and special needs, so maybe it's a fit.
Yeah, I think ultimately we'll be able, once they get more into a rhythm, because right now they're still trying to find their groove, I think once they do, then it'll be easy to incorporate the two into one. I've talked to both of them about the same.
Anything else?
That's it.
I just want to quickly mention there was a conversation of a lifetime event up at Villa Marie, which is a hospice up in Saddle River, and I found it very interesting just to go up and see it. I've heard it's connected to Holy Name Hospital. I'd heard a lot about it over the years. I'd never been there. And I also suggested that maybe we'll get another conversation of a lifetime, which is part of the mayor's wellness group, which is another thing. I will give them your contact information. We've always been at the forefront of it, but it's been a little quiet lately. I gave them the idea that maybe they could do an event either at the senior center or at the library. Both have held events before, and they were very successful. So we'll see. They're talking about maybe in April. So, okay, let's go to old business, grant writer discussion.
Yeah, I guess this is the business. When we did our discussion on what RFPs and what we're gonna be doing, we forgot to add the grant writer. So I brought it over here to formalize the fact that we're gonna also, besides the RFP for a new engineer and for the RFP for the legal counsel, we also have to do the grant writer RFP. And they could not do it without basically the council approval.
Well, I think we're all in favor of something of that nature, but Susan and I had a discussion this afternoon, and I think there's a sequence that we ought to follow. And you want to talk about what you recommend, Susan, as far as the timeline on these things?
Okay, first we have to get all the contracts for professional services extended as discussed.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning of next year, we would do the RFPs.
So
But don't
what
we
is,
have to approve it? Oh, I'm sorry.
right, I'm sorry,
So you-
please.
Don't we have to vote to add that into our list of RFPs as next then?
Right, you already
Yeah.
said you wanted the other two done, the engineering.
And so we need to also say we want the RFP for the grant writer.
Yes.
Which I absolutely do.
That sounds like a pretty simple sequence. Are there more details that we need to talk
There's
through?
a process with RFPs and advertising involved, so it would be outlined in the total process.
Okay, so I thought you were referring to a sequence specific to the grant writer RFP.
No, I think what
No.
she was referring to
Okay.
was the fact that we need to get those contract extensions in place,
Correct.
hopefully before the reorg meeting. And now you have a structure that you go out for the RFP, and you know what you're looking for because you've
That's
got
fine.
these things in place. And the same thing with the grant writer, because I think you're looking for something far beyond what Mazer has offered us in the past.
Correct. That's
So
fine.
what we need to do today is agree that we need an RFP for the grant writer.
Any, yes,
Oh, to that, I mean, when we do RFPs for engineers and labor council and all that, we know what we're looking for. It's gotta be defined in the RFP pretty strictly, right?
Yes.
So do we know what we're looking for here? That's my only question. I think we know generally what we're looking for, but do we know specifically what the RFP is going to say?
So
I think
we,
that's a very good point, because I felt a little uncomfortable with you guys really went hard at the woman from Mazer, who was probably only following direction, okay? So I think you really need to be very definitive as what you're looking for in a grant writer.
All of them, what Jeff was saying, in all of them, do we have factual, basically, definitions to include in every RFP, not only grant writer? In the engineering, in the legal.
Any council.
Do we have those factual here? That's what Jeff was
We're
saying.
going back and looking at previous RFPs and the process and the outline for them. And some of them will have to be updated.
So what, I think that what Jeff is coming through, and I don't mean, is, can you circulate that to the council to make sure that everybody in the council has a chance to put their 2, 3, 5 cents worth of, to make sure that everybody's in agreement
So-
before you send them
What
out?
might be helpful is at this table, I've heard people make comments that such and such a town has a grant writer that's doing a lot.
Yeah.
If we could find out which towns we're talking about, maybe Susan or somebody can reach out to them and get an understanding of how they went about hiring somebody that's doing the kind of job that we'd like from our grant writer.
Of course, an example in RFP, for example, that's what
Okay.
would be good.
Okay, so
Anything else on this?
those will be at the beginning of the year,
Yeah.
the
Correct.
RFPs.
And I would suggest that for specifically for the services like legal, so we don't do RFP, we do RFQs, so we are not bound by the lowest cost. So we do RFQs, then you can choose whatever you want.
Same thing.
They're the same thing.
RFQs are not binding.
RFPs, neither
RFPs are
are
binding.
RFPs.
RFPs, yes, you have to take the lowest cost.
Lowest response.
No,
No, that's,
Not for
those are
professional
bids.
services.
Professional services,
Are different.
RFPs
Even
are.
for
Okay.
engineering.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, while we're on old business, one quickie, as long as, Bob,
Question
can
on
you
old business.
give us up to date on the dog park, since I know I get inquiries?
The large dog park is installed, the wire's up, the 40 by 40, the poles were just installed today. So,
So what would you project, weather permitting, are we gonna get it
weather
open
permitting,
for?
as soon as he finishes the wiring, we'll get the stone in, get the fabric down, and get the stone installed.
How long a process would that be, assuming there's no snow in it?
Depends on Mother Nature. Right now, it's soaking wet in there, so it's a little tough to get around.
The question is,
Well, are you
who's
able to
cutting
lay
the
the,
ribbon?
are you able to lay the fabric and
Marco.
the stone if the ground is frozen?
Yes.
Just as long as it's not mushy?
Exactly.
It's Mother Nature.
we're gonna go and pee in the park.
How would you describe the surface there? Is it a wet surface generally? I mean, I know after it rains,
Yeah, right
so
now.
it's gonna take a while to dry out?
Yeah, it freezes up, no problem. Firms up, it'll be good.
Okay. Under new business, yes,
Before
Laura?
we move from old business, can we get, Susan, did you ever hear back from Aquatic Technologies on Pfister Pond?
I did.
Okay.
They have the estimate for what it would cost to do the hydro raking.
Mhm.
However, in order for us to get an all-in cost, we have to somehow figure out how we're gonna get into there and what we need to clear out to get into there. So we don't have I need to know what our next step is, who would do that work. Would our DPW do it? Would we be able to get an operator from the county to do it? I don't know yet. Somebody has to make a pathway.
Have the folks at Aquatic give us an indication of the size of the pathway, the length of the pathway, so we can get an estimate on that?
They didn't. They said something about the golf course, but they said they doubt you would be able to go through there. And then they said that we would have to figure out how we're gonna make a way for them to get the machinery and everything in.
I thought the golf course was agreeable to letting us come in from that end.
The golf course may be agreeable, but if you know that,
The TNC's working on it right now. It's just very.
Okay, cool.
Who's TNC?
The Tenafly
Tenafly
Nature Center.
Oh.
Working with the golf course or the pathway?
They're working on it,
On
which
it.
direction to come in.
okay.
Oh, okay, that's
So when
good.
do
Some more
we have to
details
make
to come.
decisions though on who
Well,
we're going
I don't
with,
think
or
you could-
if we're going with hydro
When
raking?
could the hydro raking be done?
He said it won't, it's light enough not to disturb the ecosystem there. It's-
Say that again, what?
It's light enough, the work itself is light enough not to disturb the ecosystem.
But putting in the road might be.
Correct.
But
That's the-
when do they, when can they do the hydro raking?
Spring,
Right.
early
Okay.
spring,
Okay.
early
Not
spring.
frog season?
But I
We're
don't-
concerned
Not
about
yet,
frog
it
season.
doesn't affect that.
So
That
I
was
would
my
say
first
we have to
question.
But I
try to
thought
get
I-
it
but
figured
Yeah,
out.
but
You have to go
you
down
need
the
to
road.
get the whole thing, hydro raking.
We need full
Refu-
Right.
moving all the dirt,
So-
moving
Soil
the,
three
removal.
so
things.
everything.
In
And-
basic terms, hydro raking, building the road,
Right,
disposing the stuff.
right.
And where do you dispose of it?
But wasn't there a process in which we had to keep this soil and let it dry out, and then,
The disposing of stuff, it's all
Okay.
in that. It's a
I
big
want full
package.
pricing here before we move
We,
forward.
we
That's
shouldn't
what we're
touch,
trying to
we
get.
shouldn't touch anything, we shouldn't, the nature center shouldn't touch anything either, until we get the price.
I think that's the
Right.
plan.
They're planning-
That is the
they're making a
plan.
plan.
Mark, did you want to?
No, my question was answered, thank you.
Okay, let's go to new business, and is there for any further discussion on the R19-415?
No,
No.
are you
Okay.
gonna amend it or you keep it like that?
Excuse me?
The R19 dash 413, you can just keep it like this?
That's how,
Okay.
that's
All right.
normal writing for
Yeah.
that, because you already know what the ordinance is.
Okay.
Where it's
So,
gonna be,
so for that resolution, I have to take a roll call vote.
Okay.
just a question.
You
where's
need a
the
motion and a
attached-
second?
Yes, please.
That was the two ordinances that we
Oh,
read for
okay,
second
okay, got
reading.
it.
And then we amend the original capital
Right.
plan to
Okay.
add those two ordinances.
So I'll entertain a motion to amend the 2019 capital budget.
So moved,
A second?
Second,
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bash,
yes.
Councilmember Dayton,
yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Park,
Yes.
Councilmember Rosanna.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure.
And just for you, I was super quiet on this meeting. Look how fast we.
I'm sorry?
I said, just for you, I was super quiet.
Oh, well, and the result shows, and just to show you that there's no bad feelings, I'll skip the mayor's remarks tonight. So, Bill, you want to read the closed session?
Sure. Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the mayor and council will go into closed executive session, discuss the following matters. We have 3 personnel matters. One is a discussion of leave of absence, an update on that, and a discussion of DBW director, and.
It's need an amendment.
We have an additional?
I don't know about the bargaining unit.
No, that's fine.
I could just add it in?
It's already added.
It's in there.
Oh, I didn't know it was
It's in there.
I don't have it on my.
And an update on, I guess it must be dental benefits.
Mhm.
And we have a discussion of collective bargaining matter, and that's an update on the administrative bargaining unit. This will be taken in this meeting and released in public time matters are resolved. After this closed executive session, the mayor and council will reconvene in this Richard D. Wilson committee room to resume the public meeting.
Motion to go into close, please?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? I
Aye.
ask that the audience, as they leave, don't go straight home, because you don't want the word to get out that the meetings are so short. People start to expect, so.
Don't care.